Welcome to the Getting Real with Hillary show. Inspiring stories that change lives. Where ordinary heroes tell their extraordinary stories of how they have triumphed over unexpected challenges. This is where we say what can't be said and use the AAA formula for freedom. Awareness, acceptance, and action. Now, here's your host, Hillary Burns.
Welcome to the special Valentine's Day edition of the Getting Real with Hillary show. I am Hillary Burns. I have a very special guest today, but before I introduce her, I just want to give a little message to any of you like me. I'm already crying, and this is Getting Real, so that's why I'm saying this. Who may not have a date today. Now, I do have a date with my mom. It's her 93rd birthday, so I actually do have a date. But if you don't have a romantic date, in past years, I would have spent myself maybe numbing myself, maybe with extra alcohol and food. And this year, I decided to just allow myself to be sad. It's a little disappointing. And what happened was I had a cry. It lasted about 3 seconds, and then I felt free. And then on a call, we decided, you know what? Let's look at what we love about ourselves and what's great about ourselves. And that's what this show is all about. And, you know, I hope that gives you some reprieve from maybe a little disappointment today. And if not, if you're happy about it, great. Don't use that technique. We'll have others and other shows. But anyway, today, again, this is Getting Real with Hillary. I'm already crying. I'm going to introduce... Nothing new there. Ash Straw. Ash, I've known for several years. She is so inspiring. Not only is she beautiful and intelligent, but so inspiring in our pregame talk. I learned so much, and I can't wait for you to hear her story. So this is how I'll introduce her. She's a 500-hour yoga teacher and the owner and founder of Flow and Restore, a wellness business, which she'll talk about later. She provides transformational consulting to businesses and she's an online course producer for international businesses. She sings and dances and will be in a production of Guys and Dolls in the Hudson Valley later in the spring, which is so cool. And I could go on and on, but at this point, I just want to introduce Ash Straw. Welcome, Ash. I'm so happy to have you here.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. What a delight. It's a delight to be with you, period, let alone in these circumstances.
Wow. Yeah. Oh gosh. All right. So I know, we talked about a bunch of stuff. Where would you like to talk about what other people aren't saying, or someplace, where you kind of got aware acceptance and action? Anything that,
Yeah. Well, I'll just share a little bit that I love what you said about having a good cry. And I think it's incredible how much we resist I'll speak for myself instead of speaking for everybody. It's incredible how much I resist a good cry and stuff it down with whatever. And I love what you said. Crying is calorie free. That, when we self-medicate with sugary foods or alcohol or whatever, or television, Netflix is something I will self-medicate with or have self-medicated with, that, we could just do the calorie-free version and actually feel our feelings. And there's something on the other side of feeling our feelings.
Yes.
Yeah.
I did a blog post once called Crying and Screaming Are the New Orgasms. Because one night, just like we're saying, instead of self-medicating, I was so mad, and I never, people don't see that side of me. So I was screaming to someone else, not the person I was mad at, and just swearing. I mean, as ugly as possible. It was terrible. And at the end, I was like, wow, that was awesome. Like, I was like, wow, I've never, never felt so good. So that's why I did the blog post, because crying is also a release and it's a lot quicker than just numbing and then hating yourself and all that. So yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Ugh, thank you. Okay, so something's right there for me to share out of what you just said and how you just created that. So, one of the things I want to share about is a breakthrough that I had in the area of my love life. But before I share a breakthrough that I had, what's there for me first to share is a challenging situation that I went through, and where I subscribe to exactly what you're pointing to. So in 2016, I was in a relationship with somebody um, for a while, and we were very serious. And God, he was so awesome. I love thinking about him actually. His name is Shambo, and we were both yoga teachers, and we met at a yoga ashram, and we were fast friends, like really, really connected so deeply, so quickly. And like goofy friends with really fun banter for a long time before we got into a relationship. And then we got into a relationship. And over the course of that relationship, his mental health declined. It's actually around the Thanksgiving holidays. Just, seasonally, he would slip into a depression, and he had it managed pretty well, but not totally. And in it was early the following year, March, early the following year from that holiday season, he committed suicide.
Oh,
And yeah, and you know, I mean, just nothing. So I'll share that I was working at the time at a bagel shop, and we had had a conversation like a week, 2 weeks before, and we said maybe we just want to take a break. Maybe we just want to focus on our friendship. And I was like, well, fine. Well, fine. I guess we could do that, and then we'll revisit when you get home from this trip that you're on. He was on a trip to visit his mom. And that night I was at the store, and I just had this thought, I'm gonna call him. This is silly. I'm gonna call him. I'm gonna call him, and I'm gonna connect with him, and we'll patch this up. And I kid you not, 10 minutes later, I got a text message from his friend asking me to call him, and called his friend and learned there that his dad had found him in the morning, and he had taken his life as soon as he returned from his trip. So that night, going going home that night, the next 3 days maybe, and then for a long time after that, my MO was, it doesn't matter how tough this gets, I'm gonna feel it. I'm gonna feel it. No matter how deep into the sorrow or the anger or the pain, no matter what, I'm gonna give myself the room. And I've never felt anything like that before. Like, yeah. Yeah, I've never experienced anything like that before. And it's interesting because in this conversation, I've gone, that was 2016. I've had lots of opportunities to, conjure him up in dreams and get complete and write him letters and say everything I need to say. And if you'd asked me 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago if I was complete, I would have said absolutely. Like I'm at peace with that is what happened, and that's that. I'm at peace with that. And then a week and a half ago, I watched this television show, and the main character in the television show was out of nowhere in the second to last episode of 4 seasons was killed, and everything came right back. And just to bring it back to exactly where we started, I probably spent a day going, I don't need to feel this. What is this here for? I don't need to feel this. I don't need to feel this again. No, I'm complete. No, I'm complete. And eventually just let it all up. And really on the other side, saw something about myself and my behaviors I've never seen before, and just experienced a ton of freedom like you're pointing to.
And can you tell us what you saw?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Devastating and unique as the experience I had in 2016 was, the sense that I had there was familiar. Like even that, even though that experience is like unusually tragic, if I looked back, I could see in lots of other disappointments in my life a very similar, if not the same experience, just not as intense. And so I shared that with a mentor after it came up very recently, and they encouraged me to look and see what is the conversation I'm having with myself in those moments when it comes up. And what I saw was, in the next moment, what's there is nothing will ever be as good as that was. And that's the devastation, is that conversation. And for me, I mean, you introduced me, there's like 6 or 7 things after my name that I'm into. I have a ton going on all the time. And if I look, I can see it all. Like that conversation runs a lot of my life. Like always got to really be going for it. Always got to really be doing the very best and the very most, because nothing is ever going to be as good, but we got to try. Like we got to try and make it be as good.
And what was what was the first thing that was never going to be as good? Was it from like being little? Do you think?
I've looked and I'm not 100% clear, but I do see this experience where I went to the grocery store with my dad. It's like embarrassing. I went to the grocery store with my dad, and there were these big gummy sharks. And I really, really wanted one. And he said no. And, but nothing is ever going to be as good as that gummy shark. There's never going to be a snack I mean, it's really like, to look at life like this, like, oh my God, is this real? Or is all of my actions right now really shaped by, at 5 years old, I didn't get the gummy shark at the grocery store from my dad? Is that real? Yeah.
Probably.
It's like amazing.
It's amazing, right? Oh yeah. I can't have what I want because I didn't get to go to this concert when I was little. little,
Yeah.
like 2 or 3. And I still, that's why Valentine's Day is so sad, because I can't have what I want. I mean, I think it's the same as what you're saying. I didn't get to go. There's obviously something wrong with me. But they didn't have a ticket. I mean, they didn't have a ticket. I was never going in the first place. But in the little girl mind, we make up this crap and then we live inside the story, which is unbelievable.
It's incredible.
Isn't it? Yeah.
And just it's like I think it's worth noting that it doesn't matter really what the thing is that was upsetting or why it was like, none of that really matters. And me, 35-year-old me I'm rarely aware that that's running the show. It's not, I'm not being like, I'm not trying to, I'm not trying to like get off the hook for being responsible for,
Right.
it just is. Exactly. Yeah. It's just like, yes.
Tummy shark is always swimming underneath.
That's right.
It's nuts. We're all nuts, but that's why awareness is the first step, because when you could say, oh, there's that gummy shark again.
Yeah.
Then you can go, okay, I can accept that, and then create something new,
Yeah. Yeah. Even
if you're not aware, it's just life. It's just life. Yeah. Wow. That's amazing. Isn't it?
It's crazy. It's wild. Yeah, it's amazing. It is. It is.
But I think, like what you were saying, sorry, my nose always runs when I cry, but oh, I lost the train. But about the guy and how you didn't want to talk about it because you were complete, like I had someone and I didn't talk about it because I didn't think anybody wanted to talk about it, like get over it.
Yes.
And then at one point I was talking to someone and I was like, I'm obviously not over it. And he was someone I was paying to listen, one of the consultants, and you can just say anything. And he was like, it's fine to talk about it. And they actually encourage you to talk about it, not to pretend you don't have it, because the transformation comes out in dialogue, not in your head.
Yeah.
So by being able to talk about it, I got to see the good parts, the bad parts, and get real about it rather than just, I'm fine.
Yes.
That's why I started getting real, because not to be the pretending, phony, people-pleasing self, but the real self. And it's not, it's not natural, but we can all learn it. So anyway, all right, back to your story. So that was the blow in 2016. Wow.
Yeah. So good. What you share is so great, Hillary.
Thank you.
Yeah. So that was in 2016. So after that, now
let's back up. Where did you grow up?
I grew up on Long Island.
Long Island. Okay. And then did you go to college? Did you go?
I did. Yeah. I grew up on Long Island on the South Shore in a town called Medford, near Patchogue, and the ferry out to Fire Island, right in that area.
Okay.
And then I started at school in Stony Brook and was in their theater department and their philosophy department. I've been a little bit of a philosophy nerd since I was like 15 years old. And then I transferred out of there and transferred to a full-time musical theater conservatory in the city and moved into New York at that time.
Wow.
And
which one?
The American Musical and Dramatic Academy.
Wow.
Yeah, I studied.
So what year were you? Like junior or something?
No, I transferred after my first semester.
Oh, wow.
And then went there and completed that training and stayed in the city after that. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So were you in shows and all sorts of stuff?
I was. Yeah.
Come on, like, hello. What shows? Like, this is not nothing.
Let's see.
Whoa, who knew? You're keeping
Yeah,
a secret here. That's incredible.
I was in the city performing from like I was 17 or 18 when I moved in, um and after completing school well, this is good. So I first went to I first went to the national touring cast of Shout the Mod musical, and I was
Oh,
a swing in that show. And in what a swing is, are you familiar with the world of musical theater much at all?
no, I don't know what
Okay.
swing means. I mean, swing is a dance. That's about all I know. Yeah.
Yeah, a swing is a kind of an understudy who understudies multiple roles in a production. So Shout had like five different tracks in it, and I was understudying three of them. Anyway, I was there for like 5 minutes before I started looking for how I could become a member of the Actors Equity Association, the union.
Yeah.
And I found a theater out on the far east end of Long Island called Sag Harbor, the Bay Street Theater, which is an extraordinary theater and an equity house. And I reached them and I was like, can I do a performing internship with you and get my union card? And they said, come and audition for this musical theater production that we're putting up this summer. And I flew out. I was so terrible at this time in my life. I didn't tell the touring production that I was doing this. And I just left. I flew out. Oh my God. I flew out to Long Island. I went to the
From where?
audition.
Where did you
Um,
fly from?
I was in Rochester. I just like
Oh,
went to
okay.
whatever local
Wow.
and I flew to the audition in the city and I did the audition and then I flew back to Rochester and the director was like, Ash, you can't do that. And I was like, I'm so sorry. But like I was such a criminal at this time. I really was very, very, I was not, I was so slimy. I was so slimy. Oh my God. And they offered me the role and I took it and I just left the tour. I just left. I was like, this is more what I want to be doing, so I'm gonna go. And that production was directed by Diane Paulus, who after she did that production, she directed Hair on Broadway, which
Oh
swept
my
the
God.
Tonys. Um, and so I worked with some real heavies when I was first in the industry in New York, but I never booked a real substantial production in New York. So, like I worked with Michael Mayer, who won the Tony for directing Spring Awakening, and there were several Tony Award winning people in that. The musical Bat Out of Hell that's in like the West End, or I think actually on Broadway. I was in the original staged reading of that with Jim Steinman when he was around, um, I just never was the person who was cast in the final, like the real production on Broadway or off Broadway. And eventually I gave up. I was like, I was not willing to be with or be responsible for the failure at that time in my life. I wasn't willing. Um, so I just quit. I quit.
Wow.
Yeah. And, I made up some things to like justify it. I was like, I want to write my own plays. I want to do this. And I did that stuff, and it was fun and it was awesome, but it wasn't really what I wanted to be doing. And I
Mm.
just got I I I hadn't, you know, I I am a graduate of the Landmark Forum, and when I did that course, I got so much about personal responsibility that I did not have before that, and integrity and operating with integrity out in the world. And so, I just got like for myself in my experience, had the experience of being beat down by the industry, and I just didn't want to try anymore. So I gave up. So anyway, so cut to 35 now, and it's actually going back out on the audition scene locally is something that I've just started doing in the last couple of months, because what's there for me is like, I can no longer stand to know that I would die with that not expressed. So I just had to like go and sing for some directors and audition, and I would have preferred a bigger role in the production than I have, but I'm so happy to just be back out doing it.
Wow. And I heard Ash doing karaoke in Panama.
That's right.
With who? with what was his name?
With Peter Cog.
Peter, yeah. So they were awesome. Summer Lovin'. We were all up there singing. That was really fun, right? That was great. Oh, well, I'm glad you made it back. So this is your first time back since then?
It is. Yeah. Yeah. In a production where we'll have staging and so funny. I auditioned for the role of Adelaide, and it was Guys and Dolls was the first production I did when I was in high school, and also auditioned for the role of Adelaide then. And in both cases was like second in the running for it, and offered this other role, Mimi, who's got 2 lines and she's in the hot box. But they offered it to me again in this production, 20 years later, but I have all the lines memorized already.
Right. That's amazing. Wow. Well, I just don't feel bad. When I auditioned in high school in The Wizard of Oz, my best friend got the lead. She was Dorothy, and I got put on makeup.
Oh, wow.
Makeup. And that was it. Like, I didn't realize till years later I was done. I was done. I didn't even think about it until I saw the guy later and said, oh, that's when I stopped. When I got put on makeup. So I would take Mimi.
Yes.
But anyway, no, that's great. Congratulations. All right. So when you quit, and let's see, is it time for the commercial? Well, we have a couple minutes. After that, then what? Then what'd you do? You're in the city. You're like, I'm done.
I'm done. And I started working in food service for, minimum wage. Really, I was like done. It was like something, like I really gave up. Actually,
How old were you? How old were you then?
22 maybe.
Wow.
And I'll share at the time. So when I was in high school, I started to develop an eating disorder. And when I moved into New York City, that was very easy to maintain. And there was I had a lot of really good reasons to keep that going, because, you want to be super slim in that industry, all those things that people say about it, like the pressure from directors and teachers, which there isn't pressure. People do talk about it though. So I developed bulimia while I was in New York City. And so that was also playing a role in all of this. So, there was this fundamental kind of secret that I had, and this fundamental issue I had going on with my own well-being and my sense of self, that really got in the way of what I was up to and what I wanted to be doing. So that fueled and informed leaving the industry.
Mm-hmm.
And then at some point, recovery finally became interesting to me. And then that started to shape a lot of my journey. So yeah.
And how did you recover? Did you have to go someplace or you just?
I turned to the 12-step program,
Oh,
and there is a part of 12-step program. There are OA rooms, Overeaters Anonymous, and they have specialized rooms. Well, not specialized rooms, but they have rooms with focus areas. So
okay.
they would have like anorexia and bulimia specific rooms so people could come and speak about that, and in some cases get on meal plans. And yeah, so I started there, and then I started to do a lot of like body oriented stuff, because that was a real big thing for me, was that I was not living in my body. I was very disassociated, which is it's typical for that kind of an issue. So I started to do a lot of yoga. I started to see a somatic experience person. Like I
Wow.
started doing somatic work, which was awesome. And also it was really, really helpful. All kinds of body awareness stuff.
Wow. Woo. We're going places we never knew we were going, right?
Seriously.
All right.
This,
Well, it's time for the halftime break. And then I do have some questions before we move on, but thank you. Wow. Thank you for your sharing and your authenticity. And we'll be back in a moment from our sponsor, Kikori app.
Are you inspired? Are you living a life story you are proud to tell? Are you actively pursuing and creating the life of your dreams? If not, you really need Hillary's AAA program for freedom. Just visit gettingrealwithhillary.com and schedule time with Hillary today.
Has social emotional learning become just one more thing on your teachers' plates? Do teachers and students both find it boring and ineffective? Then bring Kikori to your school. Kikori transforms classrooms through experiential SEL activities that help students play, reflect, connect, and grow. Even better, students say it's more fun than recess. Schedule a no-obligation conversation at kikoriapp.com/bringkikori. Kikori.
That's my daughter. I always have to say that. That's her voice and her company. So,
really?
yeah, she works for them. She's not a founder, but she's the chief marketing and design officer.
Amazing.
Something like that. Yeah. Isn't that cool? She did the design. Anyway, all right. So
Fabulous.
So can I go back? And if you don't want to answer, you don't have to, but what do you think where did the bulimia, I mean, I had obviously food issues. Where did that come from, do you think? Do you know? Like how did that start? Was it the drama thing, having to look a certain way, or do you know?
No. When I was in high school, I mean, it was part of it, and part of like being seen and being very visible. When I was in high school, I was in 3 or 4 productions, just one after another, a couple at the same time. So always on stage and visible. But that's not, when I look back at that's not the big driver as much as it really started around the time when boys started to pay attention. So, and I can see it really wrapped up in the very first relationship that I was in, like really wrapped up in wanting to be just like as good as I could look for this guy, like just really wanting to be like the best I could possibly look for him. Yeah, I see that more as a driver than theater, but the theater was there too,
I mean, did anyone ever say you were fat or anything? Or you just decided you needed to?
yeah, yeah, kids did when I was growing up. I don't know, puberty is just like the nightmare. When I hit puberty, like I started getting these little curls in my hair, and like I didn't recognize my body anymore. I developed a lot quicker than the other girls in my class. So there's all that. But yes, I was heavier when I was 10, 11, 12, 13. I was heavier, and I did get some comments. Actually, when you say it, what's right there is Jordan Laurenti said my thighs looked like they were Thanksgiving Day turkeys. Like
Oh,
the size of Thanksgiving Day
Jordan.
turkeys. That's what he said. I know, Jordan, come
Jordan
on.
Laurenti, come on,
Jordan
Jordan.
Laurenti.
Oh,
But yes, very
wow. So there was a
embarrassed and
trigger. Yeah.
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
usually a comment, like Karen Carpenter or something,
What'd
so
she
sad.
say?
No, someone
Oh,
said
Karen
she was
Carpenter. Yes.
fat. I mean, she ended up dying.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you caught it. So, wow.
Yeah. I had a sense when I was in my 20s, I had a scare. Um, I was I got very, very thin at one point, and I had a scare one night where, some combination of what I had done, I was not I'm just pause for a second to think about triggers and what's not appropriate to say. Sometimes people who are dealing with something can listen and
Oh,
get ideas about
okay.
how to do things. Anyway, there was a point where I became very sick, and not intentionally, but I couldn't keep any food down,
Mm.
and was already very thin, and was falling asleep one night and just saw, this is how people die from this, and was afraid for my own life
Mm.
one night, and woke up in the morning and I don't care. I woke up in the morning and for myself, said to myself, I don't care what this is going to take. I'm going to, recover.
Wow.
I'm going to go on my recovery journey now.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. Well, I'm glad you did.
Me too.
Yeah. Shoot.
Yeah.
So that was in your young 20s, right?
Yeah, that was early 20s. That was early 20s, yeah.
And then when did you do the landmark forum?
I did it in 2015.
So how old are you now? 35?
Yeah, 35. So
So
is that 8 years ago?
so you were 27, yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So was that around this time, or this was a little bit later
It
that
was
you did?
later.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really started so I think the eating disorder got pretty serious around 18, and I started to really, really take on my recovery at 22.
Hmm.
And 24, I took a long bike ride up and down the where we go, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana. I went on some adventures, some like mid-20s adventures. And then eventually, how did I get, I don't even remember how I got back to the city. I was in the city and then I moved out to stay with my parents and just focus on healing. And then at some point I thought I can go back into the city, and went back into the city. And um I lived in Brooklyn for a while, and that's where I did the forum.
Mm.
And it's where I met Shambo, who I had a relationship with, and who passed. And it was during my relationship with him that I did the Landmark Forum.
Mm.
Yeah, which was, it made all the difference in the world in moving through that experience.
With him, you mean?
Yeah, yeah, with him passing. Just gave me a place to it gave me a place to look at everything from, that I wouldn't otherwise have had. So, like when he committed suicide, I had some conversations. I had some conversations afterwards where I was just, you know, I was creating that it's okay that he did that.
Mhm.
It's actually okay that he made that choice. Like, that's okay. Um, you know, it's not okay or not okay. It's not one way or the other. But I just remember being like, that's not the popular thing to say about that. That there are much more popular things to say about people who have taken their own lives, like that it's a shame, that that it wasn't their fault, or there are lots of conversations. And I'm not saying that one conversation is better than the other, but I know for myself, like, to really be myself, choose that happened.
Mm.
Yes, and honor and acknowledge that happened, gave me a lot of freedom. So yeah, and I really got that, among many, many other things, out of the forum, that like it or not, I can choose that it did happen.
Mhm. Wow.
Mm.
And then, so then you went to India. So how
Yes,
did that, because he was no longer around, so you didn't go with him, obviously. You somehow
no.
ended up in India doing yoga
Yes, yes, that's right.
3 years
Well,
later. Like, and
I actually,
I think
yeah.
that made a big, I mean, based on what you've said, you're a yoga teacher, you own a business, that must have really, how did you end up
Mm. Okay, so let's see. So I started to do yoga through my ballet teacher when I was 18 in the city. She said, you've got to get to a Bikram yoga class. So I started doing physical yoga that way. But when I was in high school, I had an amazing teacher who had an Eastern philosophy elective. So when I was like 15, 16, I started to be exposed to
there?
Buddhist texts, and like the Bhagavad Gita and the Upanishads from the world of Hinduism and yoga philosophy. And I loved those, and I loved reflection. And I just loved everything about Eastern philosophy. And when I started taking yoga, I didn't know those things were related to each other.
Oh.
The that kind of learning and that kind of physical practice. But yeah, I started really practicing yoga when I was like 18, and in and out and in and out and in and out. And somewhere around after Shambo passed, started to take my practice seriously, started to have it not be about exercise anymore, started to have it be about practice, like really, you know, even though you can gain a lot of fitness from yoga, physical fitness, that's not the intention of yoga. The intention of yoga is to bring quiet to your mind. So if you're practicing yoga, or like I was at one point practicing yoga to get stronger, more fit, more flexible, and all that chattery stuff.
Doing.
Yeah, exactly.
Faster. Do
Faster,
more,
faster,
more,
faster.
more. Yeah.
Yeah, do more, deeper, deeper, deeper. And I really practiced that way for a long time. And uh, somewhere after Shambo died, I started to practice to practice my mind getting quiet, and to practice my breath being steady, and to practice observing my experience and cultivating a sense of being a witness to my experience. So one of the things I always wanted to do was to go to India. And I had an opportunity to go to India for a theater project. And I just I'd never had a real good reason to go to India. So I took that and went for the theater project, and then extended the trip so that I could go to Mysore and study yoga for a little while with, folks in India. And it was such a good choice. It was such a good thing to do. I'm so glad I did it, because, people in India, they don't live like we live,
All
or
right.
at least in the areas I went to. The
So why?
disposition.
So why was it such a great thing? I mean, obviously you're lit up. Like, say what? Say.
The there was, I think culture shock is great to have as much as possible, because we take for granted that everybody lives like us, but that is so not the case. In India, there's this word dispassion, not compassion, and not like dismissal, but dispassion, like a kind of a non-reactive way of being. So people are walking on the street very close to the traffic. The traffic is insane. There are cows walking everywhere. There's not a whole lot of really great infrastructure, and everybody is just like calm. They're with the flow of life. They're really in life, not reacting to life, but I know.
Cow, move, cow.
Like, you don't belong here, cow.
Move. Stop it. Yeah. Like we would be shoving people in the street, right?
Yes, exactly.
Get out of my way, especially in New York.
Yeah.
Like you move past people who are walking too slow, like, God, what's wrong with you? Wow. So that's great. So when you came back, let's see, I'm looking at the time here. Oh my God, we only have 7 minutes. So, woo! All right. So you're back from India. I know we're not going to get to the other stuff, but that's okay. We can have you back. So you came back. Now I know you had said at one point you weren't making a lot of money. You started this studio. Like, say what happened, and how did you start a studio? Like, was that part of when you weren't making the money?
Yeah, it was.
Wow.
I started teaching yoga very regularly in 2016. And my first big client was United Healthcare, and I started teaching at their community events solo, like here and there. And it was a really big deal for me. I went in to one of our first meetings, and I asked them to pay me $60 an hour. And I was like, I'm going to stand for this. And, $60 an hour was a steal for them. Like they were not paying anybody $60 an hour. They were paying people 100, 120, 140, but what do
Yeah.
what do I know?
Yeah.
I think I'm like
Hot.
$60 an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Um, so I started doing these classes more and more regularly, and I developed an incredible partnership with a woman there, and she said, do you want to grow with us? And I was like, yeah, I do. And she's like, all right, well, take my hand, let's go. And she started to ask me for massage therapists, and do I know Tai Chi instructors, and could I do this kind of nutrition thing? And slowly but surely, I built a team of people who would go out and do these events, and then started to approach other businesses to let them know about this. Would you be interested in this? And now we do all kinds of things. We deliver retreats, wellness days with staff at different areas, and I'm not involved very much at all. And then, teaching yoga classes became for me like an opening to teach yoga teachers, which is that's what I love the most, is teaching other teachers. So our company's now certified 45 yoga teachers out in the world, teaching yoga. And to come back to this world of not making money and then making money, there was a point where I wasn't following up on invoices. This is so great. So, and I would work freelance at the same time. I would do little odd jobs with people on their online courses, because I had this special skill in building online courses through a software called Kajabi, which I love, which is a great software. And I would do these small projects, and that would help me get by. And then my invoices from United Healthcare would always be paid late, and I would never follow up on them because I'm this tiny little person in their United Healthcare. I'm not going to get my invoices on time. And at one point, I was talking with this amazing human being, and I said, I just want to let you know that my sometimes I need to lean on my credit cards to make some of the payments that I need to make, because I'm not getting money as much as I really need money. And they looked at me and they said, you mean you're not making enough money? And I said, oh yeah,
Yeah.
I'm just not making enough money. And I was like, oh my God, I'm just not making enough money. So got clear about, I'm not making enough money to do what I want to do in my life. And a couple other things opened up, and I was like, all right, that's it. And I decided to take on my finances, and got to share with you in another conversation about what that looked like. But just really getting straight about that, who I was being in those conversations with people like United Healthcare and with prospective clients. I was like,
Yeah.
I was not, I wasn't being the strong and powerful person that I know myself to be. And when I started to bring that, was able to totally turn that around. And, it's a different world now.
And you were willing to ask for
That's
a lot
right.
more. Yeah.
I
Wow. All
started
right.
to,
Well, I think we
yeah,
have that for another time, because it's
that's
such a
right.
great story. We'll have to keep them guessing. But anyway, thank you so much. That passed so quickly. Just thank you for, sharing yourself and what happened for you. And I hope that other people who may be going through that can be inspired by your courage and how you never stopped,
Mm.
despite some tragic and difficult time. So, wow, thank you for being a hero. And I think you said, let's see, how do they find flowandrestore.com if they're interested in yoga training? There'll be a yoga training in the spring. Is there any other way to reach you, or is that the best way?
Oh, that's the best way. And there's plenty of places there to reach me.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Mhm.
Well, anything in closing, Ash?
Ash, thank you for having me here, and thank you for this conversation that you create. The depth of love that you bring to it is so obvious, and just a treat to be inside of, especially on Valentine's Day.
Yeah. We
Thank
didn't even
you.
get to the romance part, but that's okay. We're
That's
gonna
okay.
save that. We got to keep them guessing. But yeah, Ash has a couple of really great more stories, so we'll have her back. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Getting Real with Hillary show. We hope you were entertained and inspired. Please subscribe to Hillary's newsletter. Go to gettingrealwithhillary.com for more freedom techniques and fantastic stories and links to other great stuff. And don't forget to tune in every week on Tuesdays at 1 p.m. Eastern Time on BBS Radio TV. And let's get real. Let's get connected. Let's get inspired and create that life you love.